to Grid Live Pre-Race Sunday Edition, the NASCAR Cup Series at Atlanta Motor Speedway, the Quaker State 400 playoff kickoff race. We'll be previewing that. MotoGP, an eventful San Marino Grand Prix sprint race, championship much closer, and World Rally Championship. Sebastian Ogier throws it away on the power stage. Kobe Lambeth from Grid Tonight joins me today. I'm Joe Samriego. A big thank you to our Patreon investors, Colin, Deschelle, Mark, Robin, David, and Matthew for investing in the Grid Network. Each and every month, you too can invest in the Grid Network. Subscribe to us. Hit the bell icon so you don't miss any of our programs, including this upcoming week, the championship week for IndyCar. We'll be having a lot of stuff to talk about throughout the week. And of course, one of the big things we got to be talking about when it comes to championship, the NASCAR Cup Series at Atlanta Motor Speedway. Later today, the Quaker State 400. And one of the big things I'm going to be looking at, Ford Motorsports and their drivers. Ford swept the top 5 positions in qualifying, but only 2 of them are in the playoffs. Blaney, Austin Cindric. The others, they're not in the playoffs. Larson was the 6th place person. Chevrolet, the highest Chevrolet. And the big thing, no Toyotas in the top 10. Ty Gibbs, the highest Toyota, in 20th place. One of the big questions, and we'd love to hear you in the chat room. Do you believe Toyota is in trouble entering today's race, or are they focusing on strategy, handling, and winning the race? I'll tell you something. When it comes to Toyota, Denny Hamlin, back at the field, qualifying, he said they saw red flags. The TRD team was working on it. But I think there's a little bit of gamemanship going on. I think there's a little bit Toyota's hiding behind their hand. Because this is Atlanta Motor Speedway. We know people have compared this to the old Daytona of the 90s, where still handling is very important. It's not like Talladega, where you could just go flat out. Here, you got to have a good handling car, work your way towards the front. The track is narrow, so you really got to have something really good, because if the other cars are struggling with handling, you could work your way to the front. So I think Toyota is focusing a little bit more on the handling aspect. That means the speed will not be there. But when you look at the trends of this race, since the repave, you got to have that good handling car. You're not going to have long green flag runs. So you could afford having a better car that might be a little bit slower, but in the pack under racing conditions, you could work your way to the front. You could be a good contender. Denny Hamlin, he might be towards the back, but I anticipate he's going to work his way towards the front. The other Toyota drivers, including Ty Gibbs, who was one of the up front Toyotas, I think he's easily going to be finding himself towards the front, being a contender for stage point wins. I do not see Toyota in trouble at Atlanta Motor Speedway. I see Toyota just playing a little bit more differently, where out of all their vehicles, Bubba Wallace, Legacy Motor Club, those are the ones that are not in the playoffs, but they're definitely wanting to make sure all Joe Gibbs racing. And the big one, Tyler Reddick, your regular season champion, advance to the next round. One of the things I'll be watching is Tyler Reddick. I think he has a great opportunity to really put himself in the playoff picture for the round of 12. Get a win. Ty Gibbs, do not be surprised. He may have got in by points into the playoffs, but he has been knocking on the door a couple times. I see him being a contender. And this year's race, no rain is in the forecast. So that's a big relief for everyone. Because last year, as you remember, with this race, there was rain in the forecast. The racing intensity was picked up. But a lot of people praised that race. This year, again, 400 miles. Same as the fall race, where we saw a 3-wide finish. So you have under 300 laps at Atlanta Motor Speedway. This is a track that works like a mini super speedway. You have a lot of banking, tighter corners compared to Daytona. So you're going to need a little bit of handling. The reaction times, everything's happened just that little bit faster because you're just doing it lap time after lap time after lap time. And the big thing, the long pit road. You're entering pit road starting from turn 3. working your way on the apron to turn 4, then pit road. So if you have a car that's handling good, working your way towards the front, you could be towards the front during those green flag pit stops. If they do happen, you're in a good spot. However, here's one stat. One of the big things, the frequency of caution flags. Last year, we had 7 for 43 laps at this event. In the spring, 10 for 65 laps. And since the repave of Atlanta Motor Speedway, no green flag run has gone beyond 100 laps. The most was 94 laps in 2023 and then 92 this spring. And that was between the end of stage 1 up to a caution for a cause. So, what kind of strategy will the teams be looking at? And I'll tell you the kind of strategy all the teams are looking at. They're going to be banking on these cautions. You're not going to have anybody, especially with this type of racing, a mini super speedway, setting up for long green flag runs where you see something like in Darlington or Michigan, where as the run continues longer and longer, the car gets better and better. You just want a car that's going to be handling good from the start up to the next set of pit stops, which is very likely going to be quite a bit frequent because of the caution flags. So many caution flags, in fact, you're going to see times where people are going to be deciding to pit or stay out. We saw a little bit of that at Darlington towards the end of the race when Ross Chastain stayed out for track position. You can see somebody try that, go off cycle. So more the timing of the pit stop is going to be the big thing. Tire management, unless we see something where tires become an issue, something rare, I don't see that being a big issue. The big thing is you're not going to have the long green flag runs. Will we see a run go over 100 laps? Maybe. And if that does happen, I think that might be under stage 2. Because one of the things we have to be considering, this is the first time this race with this kind of super speedway format is hosting a playoff race. The playoff drivers, how are they going to approach this race? Some, they might be a little bit more conservative, especially you might be a Kyle Larson. You're on the top. You don't want to get in early trouble and lose out on valuable points while everybody else is making laps. But if you're a driver like Harrison Burton, you might be a little bit more on the aggressive side because this is Harrison Burton's best opportunity to get a win this season. He has one top 10 finish at Atlanta Motor Speedway, one top 20 finish. And in his 5 starts here, that's not too bad considering the nature of this race. He's had good cars, caught up in crashes, one DNF because of the damaged vehicle policy. But he needs to have a good race because if he doesn't, he could be in big trouble when you look at the remaining 2 races this round, Watkins Glen and Bristol Motor Speedway. Harrison Burton, this is his best opportunity to get a win. If he doesn't get a win, if he could get a top 5 finish, that'll be huge, especially if you have a driver like Brad Keselowski, Martin Truex Jr. If they have trouble early on in the race, they don't score those points in the first stage, second stage, and the third stage, he could really put some distance ahead of them. And the reason why I bring up Brad Keselowski, you got to look at the drivers that are not exactly having that great of a time at the road course lately. Watkins Glen, everyone knows the classic finish between Keselowski and Marcus Ambrose. He seems to be hit or miss when it comes to those road courses. Martin Truex Jr. just has no momentum. Unless he could get things changed this weekend, which he really needs to do that, Watkins Glen may not exactly be a strong track for him at the way he's looking. And Bristol Motor Speedway, there's a reason why Bristol was put at the end of this round. Beating and banging, it's going to be very interesting. You cannot bank on the idea of, I'm just going to go and win at Bristol. You could get pushed out of the way in a late restart. If a driver in the top 8 of points have early trouble, that could be a huge benefit for Harrison Burton. Also, Ty Gibbs and the drivers that are below the cut line right now, Ty Gibbs, I think, has a really good opportunity of pulling ahead in this championship. And of course, this championship, we have a lot of great drivers in there. Some of the surprises, of course, Harrison Burton, as I mentioned. Chase Briscoe, he could have a good day here. I feel he has to feel pretty excited about Bristol, a race he could go really good at. Watkins Glen, he has potential resources there within Stewart House Racing to help him for that track. He has done good, okay, in some road courses. Indianapolis Speedway road course really stands out. Unfortunately, that run ruined by a penalty with Denny Hamlin. So overall, Chase Briscoe, not exactly in a must-win situation like Harrison Burton, but if he could have a strong run here, he could set himself up to be pretty solid entering Bristol because there's still quite a lot of drivers who are entering the round of 12 that could get in just on points. It just gets harder once you go from the round of 8 to the final 4, and of course, the round of 12 to the round of 8, where still some drivers will get in points, but that window between winning and getting in to solid point stay and bad days where you get little to no points, that just gets much narrower and narrower each round. When it comes to the final standings of this first round, some of the drivers I think that might be in trouble that are going to be below the cut line after Bristol. First person I'm putting on my list, Martin Truex Jr. Now, Martin Truex Jr. could prove me wrong. He could go out there and get a win, and he is capable of getting a win. But that team's not looking good right now. Martin Truex Jr., he just seems a little bit checked out. After Darlington, a simple mistake, he right away left the track. He found out when he landed, oh, you're still in the playoffs. I'm convinced he's probably just sort of just approached each race, try to go for a win, but that's just not working out. The team just does not seem to have that drive. The fact that they saw the driver that's replacing Truex next year win last weekend, I think they're a little bit more focused on let's just get this season over, each race done. If we could win, great. But I just don't feel a championship caliber drive from Martin Truex Jr. The only way he could prove me wrong, go out there, get a win. He could do it at Atlanta. He'll be feeling very happy to do so. Martin Truex Jr., one of the drivers that's going to be under the cut line, I believe. Harrison Burton, I talked about how he could be above the cut line. He needs to have that good run here. He pretty much is in a must-win situation this weekend because the other two races are not looking good. But I'll be honest, Atlanta Motor Speedway, you still need to have, besides a good handling car, you have to be a good driver to put yourself in the right spot. Some of the winners here include William Byron, Chase Elliott. Daniel Suarez was in the right spot when there was 3 wide between him, Ryan Blaney, and Kyle Busch. And any of those 3 could have won by a matter of inches. You have to put yourself in the right spot. At Daytona, when he got that win, he did put himself in the right spot. He did get help from the number 62 Chevrolet to get towards the front, and he played the cards right. Here's a question for everyone, though. Do you think Harrison Burton could have done that if that was a 50-lap run? Much more time for something to go wrong. Harrison Burton, I just do not think he could put together a solid run, win this race. He can maybe get a top 5 and advance there, but I just think he has too much stiff competition. He's going to be below the cut line. So that's Truex. That's Burton. Another driver I'm going to put under there, I hate to say it, I think it's going to be Daniel Suarez. He got the win here at Atlanta Motor Speedway this last time. He had a little bit of a struggle mid-season. He seems to be putting together some good races here and there. Atlanta, that's the wild card. Can he win here? Sure he can, but so could everyone else. Watkins Glen, he could perform there, have a solid point stay. Bristol, I think, is a little bit of a weakness for him. He needs to have some clean races, but I just don't see that occurring. I think Atlanta, he could get swept up in some bad luck, be done, and then next thing you know, Watkins Glen trying to play catch up, not exactly go that way, and then go to Bristol below the cut line. So Darren Suarez is my 3rd driver, and the 4th one. And this one, I think, could be a big shock. So I'm hopeful people in the chat room tell me if they agree with me or not. I think you're going to have Alex Bowman eliminated after this round. He got that win in Chicago. He has had some good runs here and there. It just seems sometimes that team just seems to be lacking a little bit of a spark. And when you look at Hendrick Motorsports, besides Kyle Larson, Chase Elliott, not exactly getting as many wins. William Byron, where has he been? since this first half of the season after his Daytona 500 win, after multiple wins. It just seems he's been really quiet. Alex Bowman, we know in Chicago there was some factors that played into his benefit. He still went out there, earned a win. He had to fight hard. Could have been a very different story had Tyler Reddick not hit the wall. I just don't see Alex Bowman carrying enough momentum to get out the round of 16. So Martin Truex Jr., Harrison Burton, Daniel Suarez, and Alex Bowman are my drivers that I am predicting will be eliminated from the first round of the NASCAR Cup Series Playoff. And of course, that race is later tonight, the Quaker State 400 at Atlanta Motor Speedway. And of course, the recap of that race will be on Grid Encore. Ben and Brandon will be discussing that on Monday. Be sure to hit the bell icon and subscribe to us right here on the Grid Network. 2 races, 2 events that wrapped up already. World Rally Championship and MotoGP. Kobe, let's start off with MotoGP.
Yeah, and this morning in MotoGP, it was the San Marino Grand Prix at Misano, which saw Marc Marquez show he's still among the best in the rain, from 9th on the grid to the lead under light rain. He was able to close the gap to Pecco Bagnaia and Jorge Martin. Now Martin leads Bagnaia by 7 points after Pecco finished second. And Martin, didn't really have the best day. He ended up finishing 15th, only scoring a single point. Joe, did Jorge Martin play too conservatively today?
This is a classic point racing and playing too conservatively today, because he did great in that sprint race. Looked like he was in good position for good points, solid points. That raindrop came in for the MotoGP riders. He decided to come in while some of the others stayed out. This is something where I'm convinced if he was not in a championship situation, he will most likely stay out to try to get that win. He knows Pecco Bagnaia is chasing him down. So the mindset easily could have been, Pecco's trying to chase me down. He might crash out. He might come in a little too late. So I'm going to make that first move. But it was a safe move. And it didn't exactly work out. It almost played out against him where he finished 15th. 1 point. MotoGP, the top 15 riders score a point. If this was the top 10 only, he would have been out. And even 1 point, that could be the difference in this championship. So overall, yes, that team was too conservative today. They were just thinking about maintaining the lead. They did, but it came at a cost. Honestly, my opinion, Cody, they should have just, if you see Pecco make a pit, you come in the pit. Shadow what Pecco's doing if you're behind him. Different story, you're up towards the front, because it's easy. If the leader pits, everyone stays out, or the leader doesn't pit, everyone goes in. I think I don't even think. I know he was just too conservative. Really, the team, they just have to say, hey, this is a championship. We cannot lose by being safe.
Yeah, definitely. And it's interesting, to see these scenarios play out in certain championships, because in certain racing series, you always do what your championship rival doesn't do. If your rival pits, you stay out. If he stays out, you pit, to try to do something different. But I totally get what you're saying here, Joe. Yeah, if your rival stays out, then you stay on the track. So if it screws him, it's going to screw you as well, and vice versa. But yeah, Jorge Martin, if he wants to win this championship, it's probably going to have to be a little bit more aggressive, and we'll see how he does moving forward as we get deeper into this season. And I have a follow-up question for you next. Do you think Martin should change his approach the next time? Because playing too conservatively, it may end up costing him the championship. And it's, I find it very impressive that, that he still, seemed like he's getting a lot of support in this championship fight. Because when he left for Aprilia next season, I thought that the support that Ducati was giving Martin was, just fall off.
And that's a great point. I really thought the same thing too, Cody, when that announcement came that he was going to be leaving for Aprilia. He's been very good, and in the past, we've seen Martin throw away a win by being too aggressive. So clearly, he is improving as a rider, knowing when to push it, when not to push it. But if anything, they cannot have this approach again where we got to be safe to score points. Because like you said, this championship, the way it's playing out, Pecco Bagnaia, he's either championship caliber and hard to beat, he'll sweep the weekend, or he makes a mistake and crashes out. Now, the last race weekend, it was not his fault, Pecco Bagnaia, for crashing out. Alex Marquez got into him, racing incident, he was done for. Jorge Martin, great effort, but you cannot just throw the championship, sacrifice points time after time after time, because the gap has been cut down. Do this again next race weekend, you're going to be second in the points. And now the pressure is to get ahead of Pecco Bagnaia on the track and in the standings. Right now, yeah, you could have the luxury of being 1 or 2 spots behind Pecco Bagnaia, but you cannot do a move like this. This is very similar, I think, to, as you said, when the driver or rider ahead of you or behind you in the points is ahead of you, you could afford being 1 or 2 positions behind. If they crash out and you crash out, well, guess what? You're still the lead. Marc Marquez, despite getting that win, he is still quite a ways back. He is not going to overtake you on a race weekend. It's going to take a couple race weekends to overtake you. So Jorge Martin, that Pramac Ducati team, they do not need to change their approach. They just need to go out there, be aggressive, put the pressure on Pecco Bagnaia to stay ahead, to step up, to try to get ahead of them. Because at the end of the day, if they're a position behind Pecco Bagnaia, stay there. You're in a good spot. Yeah, it's unfortunate because of this mistake. The points lead has dropped a lot, so you can't have the luxury of staying behind them for many races. Because by the second race, Pecco Bagnaia could be ahead of you. Or hey, Martin, just do what you've been doing. It's been very impressive. Pecco Bagnaia, the pressure should be on him, but after today, that momentum could switch over to Pecco Bagnaia. And with MotoGP, right now, Marc Marquez has some momentum. He'll love to see Pecco Bagnaia having races like last weekend where he crashed out, or Jorge Martin plays too conservative and only scored 1 point. If they keep doing mistakes like that, Marc Marquez could get himself in that championship battle, make this a 3-way battle, and I think neither rider wants to deal with Marc Marquez for the championship.
Yeah, for sure. And for Jorge Martin, he'll get a chance to do a do-over in a couple of weeks' time, because MotoGP is actually going to be back in Misano on September 22nd for the Emilia Romagna Grand Prix. We had the San Marino Grand Prix earlier today, and then Emilia Romagna on September 22nd. So just a couple of weeks' time before we're right back here at Misano World Circuit of Marco Simoncelli. And now we're going to switch gears to talk about the Acropolis Rally Greece from World Rally Championship, in which we saw a Hyundai podium after Sebastian Ogier on the power stage crashed out of second place. Thierry Neuville ended up taking the win ahead of his teammates Danny Sordo and Ottonit. This extends his lead in the Drivers' Championship to 27 over Ogier, who is at second in the points. Joe, we always talk about how the Sebastian Ogiers and the Kali Robin Perez, who are running part-time this year, how they always come in to seem to take away the wins from all the full-timers. But we finally got to see, a full-timer get it done in Thierry Neuville. So I want to ask you, how big was this moment for Neuville?
It's a huge moment for Thierry Neuville, and I feel this could be, dare I say, a potential championship-defining moment for Thierry Neuville. Thierry Neuville has been one of those drivers in World Rally Championship. He seems to win. People start talking about him as a championship contender entering the next season, and then just falls flat. Nothing occurs, especially with Toyota. It would be Sebastian Ogier or Kali Rovanpera taking the championship. That's not going to happen. I feel Thierry Neuville made a statement. He was up ahead. Ogier was in second place, not ahead of you, and crashed out. And people saying, well, Ogier could have won this race. He was behind you. Thierry Neuville, the Hyundai team, great effort to get a podium sweep. Hugely rewarded. And I think this could really just start sending that team into a championship mode where they're going out there race after race, finishing in the podium and contending for wins. Because what I love about World Rally Championship, it is the driver and the co-driver against the elements, the track conditions, the weather conditions, pushing it. Just go focus on what you need to do. That's what he did this race weekend. Put in OJ in that position where he was trying to get him in the power stage, get more points, and then roll the car over. Terry Newville has to be smiling so big after this win. He could be closing in on that championship. And one of the big things for Hyundai, they have to feel really good because now I think they're starting to show to Toyota, which Toyota has claimed the last championships for the team, for the driver. They're here to play, and no full-time driver from Toyota, Elfin Evans. I'm predicting he's not going to win a race this year. It's going to be Hyundai drivers and potentially OJ.
Yeah, for sure. And another reason that Newville is going to be smiling is that he signed a 1-year contract extension, a few days ago with Hyundai too, so he can stay with the manufacturer. As we already know, there's quite a few rumors going around about whether or not they're going to be involved in World Rally Championship after next year. So that's the story that we're going to be following, in the weeks and months ahead here at Grid Network to see what the future's going to be like for Hyundai in World Rally Championship. But yeah, definitely a huge moment for Thierry Neuville to go out there, get that win, like you say, Joe. This could be a championship defining moment. So at the end of the year, since I believe OJ, although he's running a part-time schedule, he's going to be in the rest of the rallies this year, if I'm correct, based on what I read earlier this week. So that means, OJ is, still in the fight for this championship hunt. And at the end of the year, if Thierry Neuville ends up getting this championship win, may look back to Acropolis Rally Greece and be like, this was the moment that the championship turned in his favor. So it was a job well done by Neuville and this week in Acropolis Rally Greece. And with that said, we got 3 more rallies up to go: Rally Chile, the Central European Rally, and then Rally Japan to close out the 2024 WRC season. So, Joe, I'm asking you a simple question now: can Neuville claim his first championship in WRC?
I see that happening. I do see the championship is going to go his way. For Sebastian Ogier to claim the championship, he needs to deliver what Sebastian Ogier is really good at, getting the win. But Thierry Neuville, with this lead, race smart. You're not going to lose the lead over one race weekend if you finish second or third on that podium. You're not going to in the second race. So that means you race smartly in the first 2 races. You're going to be in a good spot entering that final race where the ultimate pressure could be on Ogier to claim another championship. You do not want to make a mistake and erase that lead. And that's what you could do and put yourself in a bad spot. Go to Rally Chile, screw up, don't score points, and next thing you know, you're entering Central European Rally with a slim lead, or you're behind Ogier and now you got to play catch up. I believe the Hyundai team are going to be really doing a great effort in just getting everything ready for Rally Chile. They're not going to overthink it. They cannot overthink this race. Thierry Neuville, just have the same approach you have for every single race this year so far. Don't overthink it. Same for the co-pilot as well, the co-driver. This is what makes, I think, a lot of new things different with World Rally Championship that is very different from other forms of motorsports. You got to be on that same page with your navigator, the co-driver, telling you about the upcoming corners, how to take the corners. Those two have to work really well together. They should not be talking about, let's try this, see if we can go a little bit faster. Let's try this. No, that was the earlier part of the season. Just work what has been doing a good job. Work with that. Neuville, he will be a hugely popular championship if he was to get this, because as I said in the past, we seem to talk about this could be his year. Around Monte Carlo, Neuville, this has to be, then it just doesn't happen. Here we are this late in the season. This could be his year. It should be his year. Thierry Neuville could lose the championship if Thierry Neuville decides to lose the championship through mistakes, through overthinking it, through trying different approaches. You are 3 races away. Second and third place, no matter what Sebastian Ogier does, you're still going to be in a very good spot entering Rally Japan. Rally Japan, Hyundai, Thierry Neuville, they will love to see that being a championship deciding weekend in their favor.
Yeah, definitely. And the big thing for Neuville to remember is focus on beating the competition, but the one thing he cannot do down the stretch is beat himself. Yeah, and that's one of the things that doom a lot of these drivers, from various racing series, a lot of times they just end up beating themselves, and just have to limit those mistakes and go out there and execute the race, because we know Newville knows how to get the job done, just like he was able to do this weekend in Greece. And we'll close out our World Rally Championship section now, because it's time for everyone's favorite game, pick a winner, and we only have one race left this weekend, and that's the NASCAR Cup Series Playoff opener at Atlanta Motor Speedway. I'll let you go first, Joe. Who you got for today?
Oh, this is the wild card race. I don't exactly have a clear favorite that they're going to go out there dominate win, because this is Atlanta. But I'm going to go with a surprise driver for some. But I've picked him a couple times. He's looked good. He just still has not gotten a win this season, and still searching for his first career win. Ty Gibbs is my pick for Atlanta Motor Speedway. He's going to deliver a big win, advance himself into the round of 12, and then really set the stage for everyone else to respond in Watkins Glen and Bristol Motor Speedway. So Ty Gibbs is going to be my pick for Atlanta Motor Speedway.
Yeah, and given the unpredictability of Atlanta, I feel like you could just write all the drivers' names on a hat and just pull one out to see who's going to win. But I'm going to go with the driver who's a really strong super speedway racer, since Atlanta reconfigured to this super speedway style of track with the high amounts of banking in the corners. He's been close to win. He's looked strong, but just hasn't been able to get the job done. I think we're going to see an RFK race and Ford driver in victory lane. Give me Brad Keselowski.
Keselowski, a good pick. It's going to be really interesting to see what happens this weekend at Atlanta Motor Speedway. And a friendly reminder, subscribe, hit the bell icon. This weekend, we're leading up to the championship weekend of the NTT IndyCar Series, Nashville Super Speedway. So we're going to be following all the lead up for Alex Palou, Will Power, and Scott McLaughlin as they enter the championship race weekend with a shot at the championship. Grid Encore Monday, they're going to recap the Quaker State 400. Then Wednesday, Grid Tonight, Kobe and the team, they're going to be reporting the latest motorsports news and any developments that may occur during the week leading up to Nashville. Women in Motorsports will be back on the air. Jamie Chadwick's last race weekend at Nashville Super Speedway, that's going to be huge. Saturday, Grid Life pre-race, and then Sunday, the wrap-up show, and we'll be talking about whoever is the NTT IndyCar Series champion. For Kobe Lambeth, I'm Joe Samaniego. Thank you for watching today's program. We'll see you next time, and enjoy the races.